atmosphere like?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the panel discussion on the future of education with augmented and virtual reality. The education sector is one of the most sought after sectors for any business or technology because of various reasons. One is the scale. The number of students in this sector, along with the parents, are millions of consumers, especially India, and there are a number of businesses attached, to every small part of the ecosystem. And new technologies also look very closely from the application and monetization point of view because of the scale. But people do not understand how this industry works as a business, what are its challenges, and how exactly they adopt to new technologies. And that is the reason why this industry, a lot of edtech products fail, and there's a lot of noise, and people do not get what they perceive and what they expect from this sector. So here we have a very interesting panel of education experts and technologists with us who will be able to give an insight on what is required to create edtech products as well as how to create virtual reality and augmented reality products. So, and we will see how each one of these industry will, get together to create new products in the coming future. So let me quickly introduce you to the panelists. From the education sector, we have Mr. Shayan Kumar, who is from Benedict University's Media School in New Delhi. He's a media educator working on research from and seeing how to adopt AR, VR in the data journalism. And we have Captain Vivekanand, who is also looking at adopting AR, VR in his school, where he adopts a lot of emerging technologies. He's already live on robotics. He's the founder of Shanti Anand University in Chennai, and he's looking at creating new curriculum using emerging technologies combined with CBSE curriculum. And Captain Vivekanand is looking at this discussion to see how he can incorporate AR VR into education sector. And on the technology side, we have people like Ganesh Chandrasekhan, who has a diverse experience in media products. He's worked in tech companies like Microsoft, Samsung, and the like. So Ganesh is very well known for his you know well known for his expertise in the media side, and he's also looking at adopting and creating AR VR products in the industry. We have Ajit Padmanabh, who is well versed in creating products in VR AR industry, and he has been there well versed in creating products, and he will bring his perspective to create the products. And Manoj also is there, Manoj Darwadikar, who is created EdTech startups, and he will bring his perspective into this panel discussion. All our panelists are, well experienced, 15 plus years of experience in their individual fields, and I'm sure this will go to be a very good discussion. And I'm sure, we'll all have a lot of takeaways to go, and a lot of questions might come to your mind during the discussion. I request all of you to type in the questions in the panel on the right, and we'll take it up at the end in the Q&A session. And just a quick question to, quick introduction to VR AR group, which is organizing this panel discussion. VR AR is one of the largest group who is collaborating with individuals, organizations, and institutions to expand the technology of VR AR and publish standards, do a lot of research and white papers. So we are this is one of the discussion we are having as part of the VR ARA initiatives. So I will at the end cover a lot more about what we do in the VR ARA group, and without wasting much time, I'll hand over to the panel discussions, and then let's get on with the discussion. So coming back, what is the big question we are addressing today? What we are seeing is what is future of education in India with VR and AR. Okay. Yeah, I'm just having some problems with the technology side. Just give me some time. So, in terms of adoption of technologies in the education institutions, there's a lot of criticism that education institutes are quite slow in adopting technologies and they are not ready to create future proof students. So, what are the problems that you see in terms of technologies adoption? Maybe Mr. Sharan, do you want to take that up?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. This is something which is very serious about considering the technology part. When something is new coming up, see, there is a kind of, say, understanding between the technology and the user. So, technology in the sense like digitalization is happening in education segment, and it is becoming a necessity for any education institution. Like in the case of the COVID situation now, almost all university schools have adopted to the technology terms. The classes are happening as per the timetable, and the slow process. Why the slow process? Because it involves money. It involves a kind of awareness. The main problem which comes into this is that the awareness. Once the awareness is being adopted to the system, then I think it is going to happen. Sooner or later, education segment will come to a point where they will certainly get into AR and VR because this is the future. And I think all universities have experienced this in this time of COVID 19, how the technologies can be used effectively to enhance the teaching facilities which we generally provide to the students. Yeah, I think this is one point which I would like to make. Maybe Ganesh can take over and then.
Yeah. Hi, good evening, everyone. Yeah, thanks, Sajjan, for the pointer. So, uh, basically, there are two things that I see now in the EdTech. One is the opportunity that is now existing because of whatever has happened around us in the last couple of months. So, earlier, if you look at it, we were not allowed to take mobiles inside the classrooms. But now, without mobiles, you're not allowed to be part of the say even participate in anything. The second one is adoption of say something like your laptops. So it was more you looked at as something sophisticated and it was not as part of your daily life. Now, if you look at it, it's now become it's almost like it's with you for almost you're spending close to about 10 hours in front of the laptop. So that is one good news. The second part is where the problem lies is it is the content creation which I feel is a major problem. Because today we have books, we have teachers or professors, we also have the trainers and instructors. So when all of them are there with us, so the first thing that comes to anyone's mind is why do we need a technology or force fit a technology into something which is not which can always be taught by someone else. But given the situation that we are currently in, and which you can expect it to go for another 1 or 2 years because still a vaccine is found, it's going to be on and off. So that is where the content development, I feel, will start getting into, it will start finding its place, and people will start looking at technology, and especially the technologies like AR and VR. The adoption will go pretty much high. So the main reason is they have to bring in the content where the instructors or the lab instructors and others can't help them out. People have to start using it. So that is one thing which I feel that will be the major driver for this. Ajit, you want to?
Yeah, sure, Ganesh. Madhu, thanks for the introduction, and good evening, good morning, good afternoon to anybody who's joined this call, and stay safe. The COVID mantra is stay safe. So while you are all huddled with your family, I think my take on the future of EdTech or future of any technology right now is to look at it with a beginner's mind. Zen Buddhism had this thought process of Shoshin, which means look at everything from a fresh perspective. Don't get bogged down by what's happened in the past. Reinvent the future. So I think it's high time we look at what are the pitfalls of the education system in the last 200, 300 years, and the learning that we can take from our own Gurukul system, for example, right? Because that was a thriving system for thousands of years, right? So something right was going on back in those days. So I think whatever we look at from now on, we have the opportunity to change the way things are and bring in infinite possibilities into what we could develop as individuals, what the next generation could develop as individuals, and the entire human society. And where the virtual reality or augmented reality will come in is any piece of technology should accentuate what the human mind is all about. Be something like, we have this, so we use technology to solve the problem, right? If I look at myself, what I'm doing in the VR world, or what I'm doing as a part of the industry that we are all in, the whole conditioning of our mind is that we have always solved problems, which means that human being is a problem, technology is a solution. I think we have to shift from that to something called desire invention. Human has a desire, and you invent the future. You invent the capability to redefine the way you're looking at this world. And EdTech is extremely promising. The technology powerhouse is there, the investment powerhouse is there. I think this is the right time where a lot of entrepreneurs will flourish with their own new level of thinking, right? That's very much my take on the future of EdTech as an opening remark, Madhu.
That's a great answer. Thanks for that. So just, for the sake of our viewers, maybe is it possible for you to touch upon some of the use cases that gives the maximum, return of investment for EdTech creators and for education institutions, folks that are being represented by Shajan and Captain Vivekanand today.
Okay, so
You touch upon that on a high level.
okay, yeah, I'll start with the universities segment, wherein we are in a segment where the education is moved into 70% practical and 30% the theory. So teaching practical is going to be a very, very serious thing for the higher education segment now. In that case, see, like these days, certain lab classes we are adopting to the say digital segments, which can be really worthwhile if we use say, AR and VR technology, like augmented reality and virtual reality segments, wherein the practical teaching can be much easier than what we do these days. So that is where the this industry is really want to collaborate with the education higher education segment. We have found that in our university, like if aerospace design is one of the subject where say we get say 60 students and we want to divide them into say 15 each and make it into four groups, and they want to learn something which is required to be a part of their syllabus. So in this case, if we have a software technology which is based on AR and VR, it will be much easier for the students to experience the level of thing. In the aerospace thing, yeah, certain things are very crucial to understand, uh, experience it, and uh, in, in journalism also there are certain things which are like we can't just use just photographs at certain point of time if an accident is happening, and we want to work on that particular story. And if you want to have that recreated, what is that we can take help from AR and VR, and this really is going to be the part of, say, journalism education in one segment. I've touched upon the aerospace education to the, say, journalism education. So you can see that it is very one, from the humanities to the technology also. Everywhere we required the help of AR and VR. I think all universities in India or abroad, I mean, it's going to be, they are forced to take this decision that the support of AR and VR is mandatory. I use this word mandatory. Yes, Madhu? Yeah, this is what is my take.
Right. That's a great point, Shagan. So, Ajit, from your perspective, can you actually slice down AR and VR further, into different components that will address each part of the problem that Shajan mentioned? Maybe you want to touch upon that?
Sure. So I think what you're asking is basically from the product perspective, how do we convert whatever Shajan has told into a product, kind of into a tangible, right? That's what you're asking. Cool. I think I'll want Manoj to come in on that, and then I'll add on to it, because Manoj is the one who's been there.
Created a product.
Okay. So Manoj,
yeah.
Go for it.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be part panel. I think we are, though we are missing Captain Vivekanand, who comes from school background. I have a bit of background of creating a product for schools, and then obviously failure makes you learn more things, right? So I have kind of tested a lot of things which kind of didn't go well, and that's what is my learning. So even before jumping on to AR and VR, I would say, as even Ajit pointed out, right, we have to think everything from foundation or fundamentals, right? So if I were to define where exactly the education sector is going today, I'll give a very simple example that at some point of time, like 20 years ago or something, we all used to want room, and no matter whoever is watching, what is the age, what is the gender, that doesn't matter. Everybody used to see the same program, right? Now today we don't see that situation very often. Now everything is kind of personalized, right? And this is the exact similar situation that we encounter with education also. The usual complaint that people hear about education sector or the education domain itself, that we are running factories, we are just generating students who are passing exams and standardized testing and all, right? But if you look at it that way, except the last piece of it, which is testings and exam, a lot of education system is now personalized. Okay, people are doing projects, people are doing customized learning, people are doing online courses, people are doing a lot of things, right? So I think we have to really challenge the usual perception from business point of view as well as from domain point of view that education sector is hesitant to change or whatever, right? So if you look at it, use of technology itself today, you see, as Sajan pointed out, educational institutions are using technology heavily all throughout their operations, all the way from tracking attendance of students to teacher performance to scheduling their infrastructure like labs and sessions, and even the communication with parents through apps and a lot of these things, right? So they are using technology. It means they are not really averse to technology. That's a fundamental thing we need to keep in mind. I'm not saying we'll immediately become very optimistic, saying that any technology we bring in will be immediately sold to education sector. That's not possible, because there are a lot of challenges there. Because the sheer scale of education sector itself is huge. If you just look at the very simple numbers, there are around 15 lakh schools in India. There are some 50,000 colleges, more than 1,000 universities. So if you bring in anything, you can't really claim that the entire industry or entire education sector is going to adopt one single thing for everything, right? So there has to be a customized approach, and the same thing applies very much to AR and VR. When we talk about use cases, when we talk about what is the impact of AR and VR, those things, right? Now coming to the point of ROIs, right? So now that we know, okay, education sector works in certain ways, and it has its own challenges of scale as well as implementation, all those things, right? Now we need to see where exactly this combination is going to work in terms of AR, VR, and education, right? So what exactly does AR and VR offer? I mean, general understanding that everybody has is it gives you immersive experience, which kind of uses more senses of your body than only just eyes and ears. Because if you watch a video or if you are hearing a lecture, you're just watching through eyes and hearing through your ears, right? But immersive learning gives you many more senses to be active, so that you remain attentive, you kind of enjoy the experience. It also gives you a lot more interactivity, which is not there in traditional learning to a large extent, where it's generally monotonous consumption kind of mode if you do online courses and all those things, right? And this immersive and interactive kind of makes your entire education experience interesting, right? The AR VR's fundamental core is not really technology. AR VR is a very visual technology, and it is basically taking your existing storytelling skill to the next level. So we are basically merging the education and entertainment, and we are kind of going into the edutainment world. A lot of people think that edutainment is a gimmick or it's not really required, a lot of those things. But if you think very seriously, not from product perspective, not from a startup perspective, in general, as a parent, as a student, as a teacher, right? If you don't bring in that entertainment or interesting part into the education, right? You suddenly start losing interest, and then you do it for the sake of doing it, which I think nobody wants. I mean, nobody wants to waste their time, money, and a lot of energy on doing something which they don't enjoy, right? So AR VR kind of bridges the gap of making your education more effective by adding the interesting element at the moment, right? And we also can't forget about something which is very important, that education sector has two aspects. One is a commercial aspect. It's a business, right? Nobody's running a school only for the social cause. So there are two aspects. One is social aspect, one is a commercial aspect, right? So from commercial aspect point of view, AR, we are bringing a lot of ROI. For example, teachers training, right? So forget about the consumer level AR, VR, where students are learning something on their own and all, right? If today the first interface for students is teachers, right? And if you upgrade teachers, then automatically one teacher upgrade around 50, 60 students at a time, right? So for upgrading teachers' knowledge and skill set, AR, VR is a very effective tool, which works at scale, and it also gives a very good perspective of refreshing the knowledge, making the more interesting stories and information, right? Similarly, if you look at higher education sector, there is a very good business angle there, that the technology demand is increasing. So obviously, you need to have more courses, more awareness, and more, let's say, skill building activities, which obviously generate revenue, right? Another side benefit or ROI that education sector gets is that now, as I said, right, there are like 1,000 plus universities and several lakh schools and colleges. So how do you differentiate yourself, right? So by adopting some of these technologies, like a lot of schools are doing robotics lab, a lot of schools are doing even AI or computer programming in the early stage, even at school level, right? Why are they doing that? Because they get that early mover advantage. And obviously, the benefit of that is they generate a better workforce, they generate better students who are well-rounded, right? So that brings us to the social aspect of schools. Like schools typically are thought of as learning centers where the learning outcome is the most important factor, right? I mean, you want to make students learn some skills or knowledge or information, and that's what is the primary purpose of school, right? So how AR VR helps there is schools. The primary job of school is to build your foundation. You really don't go to job after you finish your school, but if your foundation is not strong, then obviously you struggle in life, right? So to make that foundation strong, AR and VR has very, very compelling solutions and compelling products which can make the education interesting, as well as retention is very high. And if you look at the college level education, then obviously we are going to colleges to get a job or to get a career in future, right? So from career perspective, you can learn certain skills using AR VR. At the same time, you can learn AR VR itself as a skill, right? Because there are a lot of career opportunities out there after this. So I would say from ROI point of view, there are many things. Now it's let's say again individual's perspective or the institution's perspective or the decision maker's perspective on which portion they like and which portion they pick it up. Yeah. So
I think I'd like to add on to that, Madhu, since you asked me also. See, again, return on investment, right? With the beginner's mind that we are talking about today. If I look at education, what all we have gone through, right? 2 generations of post-independent India has gone through education in India. And we know that we don't have a perfect system, we never will have one, right? Now, I think the way I look at it is education is lifelong, right? It goes on and on. Right now, the focus is on return on investment because that's how businesses function today. Now, let's look at a post-COVID world, right? And I think we have to bring in this mindset change within each of us that post-COVID world is not going to be the normal business world that we have today, right? Now, in the post-COVID world, return of investment could be a challenge in terms of what is the student rank or what's the marks that he has got in what subject, and what is the school investing in that particular student, right? These are the challenges that they have today. In my opinion, where virtual reality and augmented reality will score is a metric system which has not been found out as yet. Now, let's take the example of marks. Marks is for the quantitative ability of that student or the student to be able to, regurgitate whatever he has learned during that exam that Manoj talked about, right? We all know what happens. Now, if we look at the post-COVID world where right now all the businesses are focusing on empathy, conscience, responsibility, emotions, right? Now, in the whole world, we don't have a metric system to measure any of these, right? Now, VR, AR has a very, very unique placement to be able to experience this. There is a field called VR for good. There is a simulation which the students in Syria or Iraq go through of the Syrian war itself, right? For the students to get a feel of what it is to be in a war, what it is that when you see a body there replete with blood, what goes through you in your mind, nobody can teach you that. But VR enables you through the visualization. Now, imagine the sea change that person will undergo based on the experience. That is the power of virtual reality. You basically create a world, right? In my example, if I look at it, history in school and people who take up history in colleges, they are, extremely passionate about it, I guess. But in school, it is the second most hated subject, right? The most hated being maths. Now, personally, I used to enjoy history, and I was the only one in class who would enjoy history. So I was like this outlier, right? So what have I done now? I have created an immersive VR experience to take you back in time. Let's say if some of the audience here is interested in history, or if you're interested in science and technology, just alternate my example with whatever you have in mind. You'll be able to understand the efficacy of what I'm going to talk about. If I'm interested to go to Hampi when it was in its blatant glory in the 13th or the 14th century, can I recreate that as a civil construction today in the world? No. As a virtual construction in VR, absolutely possible, and we can recreate the sights and the sounds. Become so immersive. So history is not about, some guy won the battle of so and so in the 13th century. You name it and you get 1 mark. No. History about why those battles were fought and what is the result on humanity of that particular battle. Now, that immersive and empathetic experience you will get only through virtual reality in today's technology terms. And that is where my return of investment, the whole argument that I put in front of my stakeholders, be it schools, colleges, or the state or the central government in India, I go to them with this proposition that, look, let's not look at the name, let's not look at the results that the students will come out with. Right? In the next 15, 20 years, if these students behave themselves well in the society and we have a society full of peace with, women empowerment and all of those softer aspects taken care of, I think we've done our mark. That's my humble submission on return on investment.
Great. Thanks, Ajit.
Yeah.
Shajan, any thoughts from your side on the, obviously in the education sector, students being the center of the, entire process, how do you see it, going about in terms of adoption of this technology when the entire focus is on career progression? So how do you see, this process being, proven and, the parents being, regarding the situation about using AR, VR? So what is your take on that, Shajan?
It's basically every education system is now looking at the options of jobs which they can get into. Like if many parents who have come for the open house sessions of the universities before taking admissions to the courses, the first thing they generally ask is that, see, after studying this course, what is the job options, the opportunities? That is one thing which is, it is because, again, return of investment. See, they are putting some money into the one's education. So,
Right.
obviously, there is a question, a very pointed question, that what is that you are going to train them, and if they are coming out after 3 years to the industry, the market, what is the options they are going to get? Certain levels, it's only 5 to 7% of the students who are really interested in, say, entrepreneurship in that sense. So, if you look at 93% are looking at jobs. So, every course which is like working out, that's the reason why I'm saying that many universities are now looking at 70% of practical, wherein we claim that we will make the students industry ready. To make them industry ready, again, the job profiles are, say, changing drastically. I used to remember when I used to work with India Today magazine, we used to have many proofreaders. This is a matter of time when it's 90s and desktop publishing came in. All of a sudden, this breed of people who were proofreaders been removed because the desktop publishing system was offering a spell check facility. So all of them been moved into a certain level of training. The upskilling happened for them, and they have trained into the compositing operators, page layout artists, and all kind of thing. So the change is happening there. So the technology is changing our lives in the career form, and all universities have to be very clear about it and focus on that. In this case, the next generation, maybe next 5-10 years, are going to have the digital impact very, very strong. So every industry is now looking at the digital platforms for communication. For our students, when we discuss with the parents, we say that, see, the digital is growing. So many of our students who pass out from our university will be joining the digital sector. And to reason it out, we show that, okay, digital has an impact, and the growing segment is this. So we just train, say, a new subject which we introduced the last semester is that data journalism. wherein we have taught them how to create stories with the support of data. When data journalism came in, the technology which we used, see, we have got lot technologies that Google is supplying to us. Google has its news initiative courses wherein they teach data journalism also in the way. And in some cases, we have even tried out augmented reality segment into the data journalism stories, how to work on the data journalism and kind of thing in that. So next thing is that it is not the content for the editorial, but for the advertisement also. I remember working with Ganesh on see advertisements which are for say Pepsi and say KFC and all for a magazine group. So what we did is that we created say augmented reality videos connected to the printed magazine, wherein if we used it Unity to work on that, and then if you click, you scan the picture, you get into the real videos which are run on that. So the magazine, in turn, could get a revenue stream of, say, going to the advertiser and saying that, see, it is not just the printed 2D material, but you have the 3D segment. And in some cases, we can even call for order things also can come into that particular magazine, wherein you just use your smartphone and you can order for a pizza, or you can order for a case of say Pepsi. So this is where it's going to be interactive and immersive in that sense, and AR and VR is going to really help the students. We are trying to teach them to understand these segments, and the industry will also be required well-trained, say upskilled students to just start working. The next day they join their organizations, and multi-skilled. The kind of requirement for manpower is going to be multi-skilled. It's not like say you just know how to write. These days you have to know how to use the CMS to upload your story. You need to know Photoshop to crop your story, picture, which is with the story. And the next level is that you have to make your own story interactive also using AR and VR. I think this is going to the future. Yes, sir.
That's great. And that's where, it's a good time to go back to Captain Vivekanand, who has been, introducing a lot of emerging technologies into schools. So, Captain Vivekanand, maybe can you touch upon how, good has been your experience in introducing emerging technology? You've already introduced robotics into school curriculum. So, how do you see that, going, and how has been your experience so far?
Good evening, everybody, and sorry for being late. I got tied up with a few things. With reference to, as far as education is concerned, it is no longer going to be memorizing or repetition of facts. It's going to be more of creativity, problem solving, and lateral thinking,
Right.
which are critical skills that are required to succeed in today's environment. And when I see, when we conduct robotic sessions, I've seen a very good jump in the learning part in students when it comes to their classroom performance and understanding of the concepts, and trying to implicate that in a far more applicable part of the whole learning process. Now, generally, if you see in any school, it's very conventional that the children bring a book and it's a blackboard and a chalk piece, and that is not anymore going to help our students achieve the higher level. So, AR is a very good tool because it can connect the reality to digital and makes process much more interesting, and the students' experience diversified in their learning process. because when I was trying to work around on various projects, because what we have done is we have gone through the curriculum of NCRT and then we mapped it to what could be done as projects. So we divide the students into two sections. One will be into programming and one will be into construction. So this is in a way we break it up, and vice versa when the classes again come up to that group will be doing the opposite side. So what happens in a year, we complete about 12 projects which are in real time problems in the society today. So right from what do you call a automized way of agriculture, or automized way of home security, or automized way of garbage collection, all these things we are trying to link so that the child's approach towards learning is much more different. And as you see, AR empowers students to learn by doing, basically. So when you take up robotics, it is really, they are doing something towards that learning process. There's not simply anymore going to be something they read from a book. Because conventionally today, a major problem we are facing today is lack of good faculty. They are all paper-based faculties today. If you see 70%, that's what I would say, only 30% the faculties who are from the old school of thought, where it was more passion-driven to teach. Now that is not seen at all. They are just merely coming to school, spending their time for 9 to 4 and end of the story. So there's no serious learning at all. So my part is when AR is brought in, it could really enhance the learning process because you could bring it in as it's very less expensive because today a smartphone is in every hand. So making this app work around, the student can point out various aspects of learning, take it physics or chemistry or biology or even mathematics. They can link it very easily using a smartphone and very cost effective. And the whole session becomes more informative compared to what a conventional book and chalk piece and board. We have smart board systems also, but even the smart boards are not very interactive because if the teacher changes, the user.
So it's also not helping us. I've seen that. When you see two sections of the same thing, there's a vast difference when the teacher changes. So again there, if you set AR as a standard of teaching and a standard of learning, it does not allow the trainer and the trainee to deviate from this. Curriculum, CPSE is setting up the examination mode, but how many of them are serious about what a child is taking home back? This is not guaranteed today. A parent comes with a great interest that when my son goes to the school, he will do so well, he will be able to bring out the desired results or the wishes what the parent wants to see is not achieved. My entire this thing is, I would be very happy to be part of all of you to bring AR as a platform and to try it out while we are already into the robotic mode. So what happens, I want to slowly use my teachers. For example, if a chemistry or a physics teacher, if he is taking a session, I would like to video it and convert that into a concept through AR so that if the teacher is tomorrow want to revise, he doesn't have to go back again. Yes, just put through the AR and get these concept again reviewed and recapped by the students. So this is where we will make a huge difference in the learning part. And set portions, now half the time we find the biggest challenge is the portions are not completed in time. Either it is due to natural calamities or something, or the number of students in a class are affected for some reason is not understood, then the teacher has to go back. All this is delayed. So even 220 days is not going to guarantee the completion of the portions. And now with this corona now, the whole CPSC is thinking of removing certain chapters and minimizing down. But is that justified? Because if you remove those chapters, he has to later on suffer when he goes for the higher studies. In that part, he is going to miss those chapters, which could have been his fundamental part. So my part is, if the AR is coming into the picture, even this kind of loss of time could be converted for use. Even though I'm also doing Zoom classes for 10th and 12th as of now. And for 1st to 9th, I am doing classes through in a simple manner by WhatsApp. We have got already the e-books from the concerned publisher. We have sent it to the parents. And now through that, we are generating worksheets for the parent to start making the children do the lessons. But in this case, the AR becomes real-time criteria, then it would be much easier for us to transform this entire process straight away to the parent, even if the child is not able to come to school. So we have seen many times, even a small fever or a small thing, the child is out. And when I look at the results, why this boy is not picking up, why is he not performing, I see the problem is the attendance is very low. And when I ask the parent, he's half the time sick. So in these cases also, we can bring AR into a lot of learning part.
I think what
My
Captain
entire
is saying,
thing is, if we can design a process by which this could be more easily applicable and made available to parents as well in some form or the other, to recap what the child is doing. Now the parent has no clue at all what the child is doing in school, except for a few who are very highly educated, they are following. But the rest of the crowd, they just simply wash their hands off and say, I don't know what is happening. All I know is he's going to school, he's coming back. But when the marks come only, they start getting really in trouble. And I have been trying very hard to see how my teachers are performing. That's another area where we have to be very careful today.
I think Captain,
the teachers give
you know,
your thought, but
sorry,
never it is
Captain.
transformed. He has got a lot of knowledge. A lot of teachers have plenty of knowledge, but they cannot transfer the information in a classroom and convert it what the child wants to know.
Yeah.
So I think have a very good approach in this matter, that AR will really improve and empower students to learn by doing, and also it makes the students to apply and analyze and ever.
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying. It's a holistic approach.
An
That
interactive experience.
I think that is,
especially the
that's
student
the
get involved in critical thinking and communication, because these are what today missing in a normal classroom, and it also enhances the cognitive skill in the students. So they are not anymore like paper-based learning. And when free.
Thanks for that answer, Vivekanand.
Hello.
This next question, some couple of questions that have come through the chat session. So Manoj and Ajit, the question is probably something that you can answer.
okay.
Can you foster empathy through VR experiences?
Absolutely. And I think I answered that question earlier on. So thanks for the question. And whoever's asked is, he or she is a very valued person in the times to come, right? Because this is absolutely the value of life that's going to be going forward. Empathy, there are a whole lot of virtual reality stuff that is built on it. It is nicely coined in terms of a terminology called VR for good, virtual reality for the good, right? And a lot of these simulations that are available today in the market, they are in the form of games or in the form of virtual walkthrough experiences. I was earlier giving the example of the Syrian battle as a simulation, right? Now imagine you put on your headset and you are in that battlefield and you hear all those bombs and the gunshots and stuff like that, and one of them just hurls through you, right? Now just imagine the level of empathy that you will elevate yourself to just with that first person experience, right? I mean, I know nowadays we watch the Ramayana and Mahabharata and they're beautiful reruns, those are good battles to watch on TV because you're not affected. But when you're affected, like we all are affected today in COVID, it is just because we are part of the affected lot that we are very serious about it. Otherwise, this would have been a news item for most of the world that 20,000 dead here, 10,000 dead here, right? In Africa, for the last 30 years, for example, hunger has killed that particular continent. There are virtual reality experiences of watching the hunger die, watching the hunger, right? I mean, you have a kid right in front of you, and you are unable to provide or fend him with food, and in the next 5-10 minutes, you actually see him collapse and die. Now, imagine what this does to your mind in terms of your empathy experience. I think there are a lot of examples like those that I'm happy to share with the person who has asked that question. I'm happy to take that further.
Yes, so Ajit, thanks for that answer. There's one more question, probably very related to that, asked by a different person. Necessity is the mother of invention. Do you think present necessity will bring in changes in this world?
Absolutely.
It's probably, in conjunction with your answer. So I just thought
it is a matter of time before we change the way we operate, or we are already changing the way we operate, right? These sessions used to happen in seminar halls, right? Now we are in our homes. Necessity is the mother of invention, but before that, there has to be a desire to invent. Now, that desire, I see that the new generation or the people who are affected by this whole pandemic, they have changed their view of life, and those are the guys who will bring out their desires as inventions. Necessity is absolutely, the way to go.
See, just quickly would like to add something, a little contradictory viewpoint here, because we know that what is the current situation, and we know that these tools like Zoom call that we are having right now, right? These have been there from many years. We have been doing video calls, but now suddenly because of a forced situation, everybody is well versed with a video call, right? So that necessity is created artificially, I would say. But then now, because of that necessity, everybody kind of forced themselves to really adopt it, and do all those who were saying in the past, right? At least like a couple of years ago, that no, physical presence is the must. Without physical presence, you can never connect with a person. Body language is most important. Yes, all of those are important, but are we not able to work today effectively? We are. We adopted suddenly, right? So that necessity is kind of forced on us, right? When it comes to a field like AR and VR, where there are already a lot of misconceptions and perceptions, right? I don't think the desire is going to come automatically with a large population. It's going to come with only, let's say, few handful of people who understand what is the future, and rest everybody is going to become a follower, right? But how will those followers fall in line is that connection of necessity. And I think if you take a quick example, right? Let's again, I always like to go back to business aspect of things, right? So if you look at education system, if you look at let's say parents, their decision of buying any educational product, or their decision of, let's say, taking a particular course for their student or their kid, right? So research reports or market research reports say that most of the time the decision is impulsive, it's not logical. Okay, so for example, take a look at this COVID situation and video conferencing, right? It's not a logical decision that all of us have taken. People could have migrated to online collaboration in the past also, but now it's suddenly impulsive decision, right? Same thing applies to education as well. And there are like a couple of elements which are very popular with parents, which generally kind of sell your product. So if you want to create necessity of your solution, I wouldn't say artificial necessity. You really have a genuine intent of making your product mainstream, but still you want to create a necessity, or generally, for any change, you have to have some sense of urgency, right? So there are a couple of factors which are very important from parents' perspective. So factors like marketing the success of the product. So for example, if let's say there is a coaching class and they say that 30% of our students go to IIT, so they are marketing the success of their class, right? They are not marketing the 70% students are not going to IIT, right? But still people fall for that part. So I'm saying, when you are saying that I'm bringing an augmented reality solution for students to learn something better, you have to definitely highlight the success part of it upfront, because that's what gets registered first while taking a buying decision, right? So if you want to create necessity, I mean, if you want to make people interested in thinking that, okay, these things are necessary or these things are important, you have to be very, very research oriented and focus on these small things which are psychological, especially like in Indian context. May not be directly applicable to US probably, but in India definitely it's a very big thing, I would say. So there are ways where you kind of initially manufacture necessity, and then people eventually understand that yes, there is really a good outcome that we are getting out of this. Like similarly, as Sajan said, right, employability is another big thing which people feel necessary. Even though they are well off right now, they want their kids to go and open a rock band. Still, they want their student to study in engineering college. Why? Because there is a backup job option always, right? so if you are able to connect these two things with whatever AR/VR solution people are bringing in, then I think people will register it as okay. This is falling more into necessity and not really that something futuristic or something I can think of 10 years later or something.
Correct.
That's what is my
take. On the necessity part, just two more points. When Manoj took the example of Zoom, there is a necessity to become together even now, right? Even in these isolated times. So this becomes the solution. So there are two researchers that I'd want to quote that accentuates Manoj's, claim for necessity. Human beings, psychologically and as a part of neurosciences research, it is confirmed that humans are impulsive. We are the least rational beings, though we love to think of ourselves as rational beings, right? We are not. Okay? We are made to desire, right? And we are made to crave, right? The second point that I want to bring out is in terms of the necessity. One is you create the necessity for the person who is asking, if he or she is into the startup mentality or she wants to create one. There are studies that they say that the higher percentage of startups that have succeeded is the number one point is not the funding, the number one point is not the idea, but the number one point that the startup succeeds is the timing of that solution. And that timing is a necessity, is what I want to tell that person. So, yeah.
So just to add a couple of points, Madhu.
Yes, Ganesh.
Just to add a couple of points, Madhu, is just touching upon what Manoj and Ajit said, and also taking off from what Captain Vivekanand also said earlier. So it's like basically I go with three things. One is there is a study by Dr. Edgar Dale in 1969 or something around that time. It's something called as cone of learning. So that applies today because the human brain tends to remember just about 10% of what we read actually, and about 20% of what we hear, 30% of what we see, and about 90% of the actions are performed or simulated. Today, we are in a situation where we are reading, we are hearing, we are seeing. But the problem is, if you go to school, you're going to mingle around with all the students and also the teachers, which is not going to happen. So what is happening is he's now stimulated or he's forced to act upon something. And that is where this particular thing actually goes in. The second one today is all the teachers or the schools or colleges, what they are doing is they're just giving a template. They're just giving a template now and saying that, hey, this is your course curriculum or this is what is a module you have to read through. So what is happening is now it is left to the students now to come out with their own personalized learning kit, the way they want to learn. So which was never there before. So that makes them much more creative and the possibilities of experimentation or learning by rotation and all these things are happening. So these two things, if you look at it, is going to be the major thing, takeaway for the students when they go back after 2 months to the regular stream, where they're going to force the teachers or the schools and colleges saying that, hey, this is something which we did. Can we try and experiment more in the class as well?
Yes. Thanks, Ganesh. Thanks for that answer. Just, I think we are almost done in terms of the time. So, in interest of time, I'd like to thank everyone for the interactive discussion that we had. A lot of takeaways for me and for people on the call and those watching on the webinar. Few more questions that are there. All that I want to say, we are going through them and we will respond to you. We have the email addresses. In terms of, as questions, yes, we can help. That's where VRAI group can help. There's a person who wants help to implement VRAR in mechanical engineering college. That's where VRARA group can help definitely. So we will get back. And in terms of ROI, we will be able to help you create the business case and help in getting involved in terms of how we can structure the program and create the process and journey for students. Definitely we can help you. We will get back to you in terms of answers to them. We have your email addresses stored, and definitely we will get in touch. Others, you have the email address at the ticker below, Bangalore at the com. So please send a mail and we will get back. Or the website also, prai.com. Just one more question, Manoj and Ajit, I wanted to call out. You can take it in even though we are running out of time.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the question is it possible to implement innovative VR project with human body sensors where we can see
Yeah.
projects like go for shopping and with the past data and understand taste of food without having it. So it's a
Yeah.
Second one is a bit tricky.
yes.
In terms of taste, because there's no olfactory based device as such. Olfactory basically means your taste senses, right? Olfactory based commercial product is not yet available, but the first point, yes, motion sensor. There are a plethora of devices available that even senses your finger movement, your toe movement, your various parts of the body, the shoulder, the head, the eye movement, the lip movement, etc. And there are a bunch of startups that are part of the VRAR association itself that work fully on these kind of devices and materials, right?
Materials. Well.
So yeah.
So I think in here actually a couple of I think a couple of restaurants are trying out at least to show like if the menu is now converted into AR. Though you can't smell it, we can probably bring in a little bit more of some other technology to bring in the aroma factor into it. But the menus are now driven by AR and VR. In fact, AR actually.
I think AR menu would definitely make you hungry, right? So you can automatically taste.
You can actually taste after
I'll
that.
wait for the restaurant open, guys.
You can create your own restaurant. See, that is what it is all
So
about.
Madhu, was there any other question as part of the same? I just missed that part.
Yeah, I think as I said, folks, Pallavi, Kiran, Rupak, Barvik, Tejesh, Ronak, we have received your questions and we will get back to you. Yes, definitely, we will be able to help you out. As you said, in terms of creating the ROI, setting up the labs, we can, from VRARA group, we can definitely help you out. We will be in
Yeah,
touch
we can
with you.
facilitate and helping in terms of labs and in terms of ROI and other things.
Right. So thanks everyone. Thanks Manoj, Ajit, Shajan, Ganesh, and Captain Vivekanand. Thanks for a great interaction. We'll be having more such webinars in the near future. And stay safe. Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Madhu.